Hello everybody, my name is Christian Servin. I am making this short tutorial about text editors that you can use for CS1, or some people call it Java 1, but it's the fundamentals. If this is your very first time coding something, I recommend to follow these steps. I know it can be a little bit hectic at this point because you kind of understand the coding part, you probably understand a little bit of the programming, but then you're facing some technical difficulties with the software, and that shouldn't be the idea. Now, since most of you are working in your own computer, it's very difficult to find some kind of uniform way to solve all of the problems at the same time. This is a disadvantage to have a virtual meeting versus the face-to-face. If you're in the face-to-face, we're used to usually in a lab where all the labs have the same text editors, so it's very easy. But here, since probably some of you, they have all different computers, some of you are probably borrowing some computers, so it's a little bit more challenging. So I recognize that part. So what I'm gonna do today, I'm gonna focus only in the Visual Studio Code and in DrJava, since those are the most, let me put it this way, are the most accessible, if you want to say it like that way to write a program or text editors that you can find at this point. So if you have a questions, I refer to you to watch the other video that I made regarding the software IDs, right? To make a decision what kind of software you should use depending on your needs. So please pay attention on the other video that is being posted in the website, or is being posted in the YouTube channel. So I just want to let you know that there's a couple of flavors that you probably can make at this point of your life. Most of you are in, okay, maybe you can be in a different stage, right, of your life, but here it's the beginning, the intermediate, and the expert, and everything depends if you're using a Windows 10 or a Linux environment. So I just try to categorize that for you right now for your convenience to see which software you should be using. Right now we're facing the DrJava, which is the beginning if you're using a Windows, and maybe also Visual Studio is considered to be intermediate because of the tools that they have, but you can use them as a text editor as well. I received a couple emails telling me that you have probably a Mac. That's considered to be also like a Linux environment, where you can see that penguin if you're not familiar with Linux. So a Mac is something between Windows and the Linux there. So if you're in the beginning, that's the software that I recommend. DrJava, use a Notepad or Notepad++. That's where you see that in the middle, that I'm not so sure what is that, a frog or something. Or the terminal, the command line. That is something that I recommend if you're a beginner, right? The only trade-off is that if you're using Linux or Mac, you need to kind of know a little bit of command lines, programming. Not let me just not call it, it's not programming. It's just basic navigation commands. So you can just move from directory, list the folders in the directory, and whatnot. And later on, we'll talk about a little bit about more in the command lines. For the sake of simplicity, I'm not going to go to the details. I'm just going to mention a couple of those details about how to define those programs and then compile it and run it successfully so you can do your homework. Let's start with Visual Studio Code, where you can actually download from this website that is right there. Probably some of you already download. The download is not difficult. You just go to the website, download, and install it. The only challenge that I can see based on the emails that I receive is that a couple of you are having trouble how to compile it and how to run it. So here are the commands that you need to understand when you run it through the terminal. Java C is the compiler from Java, and then follow it by the name of your program. Make sure you have the .java at the end. Please refer to the very first video to when I called it my first program .java. How do you create a program and how do you put the extension? When you compile, remember that you need to do that sequence of steps. First, you have to compile it because Java will generate a class file. And when you create your class file, is the same name, my first program.class, and I will give you an example in a little bit. But when you compile, Java will create a bytecode called the .class file. Once you compile, and this is very important, I just need to repeat this a couple times. Every time you make a modification of that file, you have to save and compile it again before you run it. If you don't save, compile before you run it, that will not reflect the changes, and you're gonna get a headache not knowing why. So please compile, save, compile, and then run. Even if you make an extra space, save, compile, and then run. When you want to run after you compile it, you just have to do Java without the C, and then my first program without the .java. This is very important. I hope you can understand those steps that are right here. Now, this is what I was mentioning in the previous slide. When you are running this through the Visual Studio, you have a small console. It's called the terminal, and that's where it's going to allow you to move back and forward from the entire directory. So I'm just listing here 3 different commands that will allow you to move back and forward, listing and making sure you know where you're located. That's the last one, PW. So CD means change directory. That's the command to help you to move back and forward from different directories in your operating system. I don't know what operating system you have. Probably you have Windows, probably you have a Mac, probably you have Linux. I don't know what you're having, but it's kind of universal when you just move directories. ls will list the files that are your current directory. Remember that we're just doing everything through text. We're not doing anything fancy with graphics. So ls will list the files. And finally, pwd is printing the working directory. Sometimes because you're being so much, you don't know where you're standing, it's sometimes helpful to put pwd to show you where you're located. I will show you that in a little bit. The next editor that I want to talk about is DrJava. And DrJava, as I mentioned previously, it's a very, very old text editor, but for me, it's one of my favorites at this point of your level of education. Right now, you're in the introduction, so you probably need something related, something easy, something where you can write a program, compile it, and run it. So the instructions are very easy. As a matter of fact, I download a jar file in the class website. You can find it there, or you can just go to this website that you can see right there, and you can use the text editor to compile and run everything just by clicking those buttons, the compile button and the run button. So the only thing that I have seen previously is that you need to make sure your Java JDK is installed in your machine, regardless if you're using Visual Studio or DrJava. But DrJava is kind of picky because if it doesn't find the JDK, it will not run. It will tell you cannot find the compiler. So make sure you do that thing. In the very first video, I show you how, and you need to follow a couple steps. But I just gave you here the link in case you want to do it at this point. So let's go ahead and demonstrate the Java code, the Visual Studio code, and the DrJava. So at this point, I have my Visual Studio open. And I receive a couple emails saying that some of you don't have the terminal part. And it's because you need to come here, and probably you don't have this part at all. It looks like this. Yeah, when you open this, you create a new file and you create public class something, and then you're gonna save. And I think I mentioned this previously, but I'm gonna repeat that thing. Right now I'm saving everything in my desktop, everything, just for the simplicity, for you guys to understand where we are. You can save it wherever you want, but the more directories you save, the more directories that you explore, the more movements you will have to do. So I recommend to right now save everything in your desktop and later on move it back and forward to your directories. Now, when you come here to this screen, ladies and gentlemen, remember that the name that you put after public class, this name has to match, must match. And I hate to say this too many times, but This is very important. If this name does not match with whatever you wrote here, this will not work. Your program will not work. So make sure if you put here, I put it just something, just for you to recognize. I don't care how you call it. You just need to follow the instruction. But here you're gonna call it something. You're gonna call it something, and make sure your file has the extension of .java. Here you have to explicitly put the .java. Otherwise, your program will not, Visual Studio will not save it for you. So notice even right away when I click that, the Visual Studio recognizes the keywords and everything and gives you color for different things because it recognizes that. You need to create the main public static void main string args, and this is a couple of you emailed me about you forgot this part because you got confused, because at this point the only thing that you're doing is just follow the instructions and you didn't notice there was something else inside. So make sure that for the next weeks you have those 5 lines of code memorized or mastered completely, because everything will take place inside of those 4 lines of code. So make sure you respect the capitalization, yeah, and something else. And for example, the spacing. Java is not so picky with the spacing, but please try to follow those conventions. And system.out, the print line, this is just, I'm just gonna print here test, maybe some drama. Now, when you save this, you probably don't see here your terminal. And this is okay, because depending on how you download, the configurations might change. So you need to come here to view, where you can see view, and you need to click here terminal. This will pop up this screen that you can see right now, which is the terminal. Notice that I'm using a MacBook, so this is my home directory. This is my username, cservin. If I want to know what I have here, I can list ls. And you can see that there's a lot of different things here that I have, different directories, different applications, different, I don't know, different files. So notice, remember that I save my file in the desktop. And desktop is one of the directories that I have in my machine. So I need to move directory. I need to change the directory to desktop. So I need to put cd, change directory, and then desktop. And then I'm going to hit enter. When I hit enter, I don't know if you can notice, but at the very beginning, didn't show anything because I was in my home directory. Now they show you where you are, desktop. And if you don't believe me, you can put pwd, that's the print working directory, and it's going to tell you currently you're in users, cservin, and desktop. Yeah. I can put ls to list the files, and notice that there's something different here. Here is the files are in my desktop, and if you can see, I have 1, 2, 3 directories here, and then I have a couple other stuff. For example, I have 2 Java files, and I have the DrJava executable. And indeed, that's what is showing you right now here. You have labs, q.java, something.java, summer 2020, DrJava, and sort. So those are the files and directories that I know, that I have. So now I am the place where I can compile my program. So to compile the program, you need to type javac for Java compiler space, and then the name of the file you want to compile. And this is gonna be something.java. So notice that the javac is the Java compiler, the name of the file with the .java. When I hit enter, ladies and gentlemen, when I hit enter, it's gonna tell me here successfully was compiled. But I'm not so sure if you noticed, but there was this file called something.class that was generated. This is what I was mentioning in the very beginning. Something.class. The .class is the bytecode. This is the bytecode which basically will allow us to run the program based in this machine. Usually it's the same name as the Java file. The only difference is something.java has the code. Something.class has the byte code. This is what Java recognizes to make sure it runs. So next time when you want to run, not compile, run, you need to type Java without the C and then something without the .java. And there you go, test. Now, I want you to recognize that the commands that I'm just only giving you 3, right? CD, change directory, ls, listing, and pwd, printing working directory. That only shows you a couple of commands that can help you. It can help you to distinguish what's going on in your machine. Suppose that you want to go back to one directory above. So right now, I just want you to know that pwd, basically I'm in users, cservin, and then desktop. If I want to go to my home directory, where is cservin, I need to change directory. But how can I do it one more level up? So that's how you put the dot. The dot will move you up. Notice, print the working directory. Now I'm under users and then / cservin. Yeah. So if I want to move back to the desktop, change directory, desktop, and I said pwd, that's the print working directory. Now I'm the desktop. Notice that you can have here your path to the current working directory. I didn't mention this, but you can also put clear just to wipe out your screen and have a fresh new screen for terminal. It's kind of useful because the only reason why I intend to use this is because I don't want you always to think that everything will be Windows based. This is more into the Linux base, which is very important, and that's something that you're gonna end up working in the industry part. Let's go back. Let's go now to DrJava. DrJava, I have it here. Yeah. Here you don't have to worry about the terminal. This is a very simplistic code. The only thing you can do, for example, is as simple as this. I got the code. I can just even drag and drop here, click, yeah, and automatically opens for you. Or you can just go through this, opens, and then just click the one that you need, and it will open for you. Notice that at the very beginning or at the very top, you can see that there is the entire path that where your items are located, and you don't really have to do a lot of things. The other thing, the cool things about DrJava is that gives you these buttons like compile and run, right? And there's more stuff here. Okay, you can just go and actually explore if you want to. Another thing that DrJava provides you is that you can even select the compiler that you want to run it. For example, some of you probably, for those Windows user, you probably have the Eclipse compiler. That's an automatic compiler that it downloads depending on where you download it. But this is okay, but I recommend to just download whatever Java JDK you have. I have the 7.0. Probably I'm a little bit outdated for this one, but that is okay. Because for the aspects that I work in this computer, it's only for teaching, so I don't really need to have the latest one. So the nice thing about this thing is that you don't really have to worry too much about the terminal. You just click compile, and Java will tell you here compilation complete. If there's an error or a syntax error, it will show you the error. For example, suppose that I forgot the semicolon, and I compile this. When I try to compile this thing, hopefully it compiles. Oh, you know what? I don't have the compiler. That's why I run it. It will show you here. And since I don't have it, and you just click here, run, and it will tell you to compile it again and then run it. So I don't know why it's not saving in my directory, but it's because I believe I deactivate this part here. But you can do the same thing. It will. Yeah, that's why it's making a conflict with the other release part of my Java that I have installed. So just believe me, if you compile and run it, it will run your program successfully. Before going there, let me just show you where I download this thing. I went directly to the Google, right? And when you go here to the Google, it was here. I can't remember if it was here. Yeah. Just put DrJava download and gives you a couple of instructions here how to download. I recommend to just click here downloading DrJava, and if you don't have the JDK, click here JDK. It will take you to to this website where it's asking you what kind of version you want. This is the same website that I gave you at the very beginning of the semester. You can click here the JDK to download, and you just need to pick which flavor you have depending on your operating system. I believe most of you have Windows. I might be wrong, right? But just download this one if you want to executable. Probably you're gonna have some kind of drama because of your Windows or the Mac OS X. I'm sorry, I think this is the SED. So don't go to SE, just go to the JDK, Java Developer Toolkit. Yeah. So you just need to download here. This is the same website that I gave you at the very beginning, and you probably will have to go through a couple of instructions. You don't really need to come here, just saying that you won't do anything bad. So just go and follow the instructions. For the DrJava, please pay attention on the following. If you decide to download from this website and not from my website, it's going to give you three options: the jar, the Windows, and the Mac OS X. I know some of you have Windows, some of you have Mac. Please have the jar file. The jar file is the one that it will save you for a lot of drama and headaches, because Windows, it will give you an executable, and probably your firewalls is going to tell you, hey, you know what, this is an executable, might be a virus, and you have to do a lot of different things there. DMGs for Mac OS X probably is going to give you some kind of drama also. So the best way to do it is just by doing the .jar file. So try to download that guy. It might take you to SourceForge. I'm not so sure where he's going to take you. I think I lost my internet connection. I can tell right away. So it's that's the definition of what I'm trying to show you here. If you go to the website, and also in Blackboard, I believe I post this there, you can just download this for free. So hopefully this helps you a little bit to understand how to execute or how to download your favorite text editors with compilers. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I really appreciate your questions. I try to answer your question as soon as possible. And what I've been doing is that I've been collecting most of those questions and concerns, and I just did this video based on those. So please don't hesitate to contact me again in case you have any questions. See you next time.